Okay, I'm gonna have a little bit of a hard time filming this because I wish I had a hanger to properly dangle these two skirts over just for easier presentation. But here they are. So there's the front and the back of the godet skirt. This one was such a challenge to get those godets. I feel like after a while I did get the rhythm and it was much easier, but you can see the areas where I first started and where I struggled. It's quite obvious where a good chunk of them are not really up to par, and then the rest of them turned out nicely and smooth. It's got some stray threads on there. This one was definitely one that I feel like was a good practice for me to get into those little meticulous areas, and these are realistic shapes that would require practice to perfect. Over time, as you can see, they turned out much nicer than initially. This one was not as difficult as I thought it would be. It definitely wasn't my favorite one to work on, I will admit. It was quite the tedious task because of all the gathering. And pressing it was a little difficult too because of the amount of fabric that went into it. Otherwise, I do like the way it turned out, and I actually liked practicing this here in small scale as I have some ideas for things I want to make that have a similar effect. Perhaps projects that I will be working on independently in the future that will have a tiered system, but it was kind of nice to see how to build the foundation and positioning of these tiers. It's kind of fun to think how much fabric you can play around with. I'm sure that you could do something fun if you really go from a smaller amount of fabric length to a much larger one to really give it more of like an increasing ruched effect or smoother. As you can see here, that's kind of the effect that turned out. It seems to have more gathered fabric up at the top where it's a little bit narrower versus down below where it gets wider. Otherwise, these were both very fun to do, quite tricky and quite meticulous, but nonetheless good skills to have and good things to practice.